The Ebony Horse Maria lived in the village of Oak Haven, a place swallowed by the dense, silent forest of the Greywood. The village was known for two things: the endless, patient work of its woodcutters and the oppressive sense of enough. Everyone was content with what they had, which meant everyone was content with mediocrity. Maria, however, had the heart of an explorer trapped in the body of a baker's apprentice. She dreamed of windswept plains and the sound of hoofbeats, not the smell of yeast and flour. She was 19, her hands perpetually dusted with white, yet her eyes held the dark, restless shimmer of the untamed forest. One sweltering summer afternoon, while clearing the overgrowth behind the old mill, a task she loathed, her rusted hoe snagged on something unnatural. It wasn't stone or root, but a meticulously smooth, cold form. Maria knelt and dug, uncovering a sculpture so detailed it stole her breath. It was a horse, perfectly formed, carved from wood that seemed to absorb all available light, ebony. Its mane was a cascade of sharp, intricate waves, and its eyes, two tiny, polished flecks of jade, looked ancient and infinitely wise. The sculptor had managed to capture the essence of untamed speed, freezing it in the hardest wood known to the region. As she held the ebony horse, a name that settled immediately into her mind, she felt not a sudden surge of power, but a profound, almost terrifying stillness. All the chaotic noise of her mind, the anxiety about the future, the impatience with the present, simply ceased. For the first time, Maria felt perfectly clear, focused, and absolutely certain of what she needed to do next. This clarity was the horse's gift. She quickly realized she wasn't suddenly lucky, as people assume of true magic. She was simply no longer distracted. When she spoke to the baker about her ambition to leave, her words were so concise and conviction so absolute that he, a man who usually refused everything, agreed to let her go without argument. When she bartered for supplies, she never missed a flaw in the merchant's scales. She was seeing the truth of every situation, stripped bare of emotion. Maria used this gift sparingly at first, enjoying the feeling of competence. She saved enough coin in 3 weeks to last her a year and bought a sturdy pack and a simple, used compass. The size of horse changes often. The day she decided to leave Oak Haven, she tucked the ebony horse into the innermost pocket of her tunic, feeling its familiar, comforting cold against her ribs. Her goal was the legendary Whisper Peak, a mountain rumored to house the source of all the region's fresh water, which, worryingly, had begun to dwindle and turn slightly bitter in Oak Haven's spring. Maria instinctively felt the problem was not local, but ancient and high up. Her journey began with intoxicating success. The unwavering focus the horse provided allowed her to navigate trails others found confusing, to conserve rations with military precision, and to ignore the crippling fear of the dark woods. But a fortnight into the journey, Maria grew arrogant. She began to rely entirely on the horse's magic, stopping short of exerting her own effort. Why climb the steep, muddy rise when she could just hold the horse tight and will a clear path? She came to the banks of the river vein, swollen and churning with recent rain. A narrow, dilapidated rope bridge swayed precariously overhead. Maria held the ebony horse, intending to simply know the bridge would hold. She focused, commanding the wood, "Hold true. Give me passage." Instead of compliance, a subtle, sharp pain shot from the horse and into her chest, like a splinter of ice. She gasped and staggered back. The intense focus she relied on shattered. Suddenly, the river's roar was deafening, the height of the bridge dizzying, and her fear was overwhelming. She saw the bridge not as a path, but as a death trap. She stood paralyzed for 3 hours until she saw a small, sure-footed mountain goat use a series of nearly invisible, tiny footholds carved into the cliff face, bypassing the bridge entirely. The lesson of complacency hit her like the cold spray of the river. The magic of the horse didn't negate the challenge, it only gave her the mental clarity to face it. By demanding the easy way, she had short-circuited the gift. She had to climb the dangerous cliff face herself. It took her 5 agonizing hours, bruising her body and shredding her hands, but she succeeded. As she rested on the far side, The ebony horse felt warm and responsive again. It had waited for her to choose the hard work. Deep within the foothills of the Whisper Peak region, Maria found a hidden settlement, a single cabin belonging to an old, stoic woman named Silas, retired woodshaper famous for her refusal to use metal tools. Silas took Maria in, sensing the magic of the ebony carving. Upon seeing it, her eyes widened. "This is one of the 3 anchors," Silas said, running a knowing thumb over the horse's perfectly smooth flank. "Carved from the heartwood of the Tree of Ages, the deepest, oldest part of the forest. The ebony is ancient, but its magic is not an engine. It is a reflector." Maria listened intently, feeling small. "A reflector? It helps me focus, but when I try to force something, it fails." "Exactly," Silas nodded, setting a cup of bitter tea before her. "The magic of the Tree of Ages is the magic of deep intention. You hold the horse, and it clears your mind of all frivolous thought, the noise. It shows you the truth of your situation and the clearest path forward. The horse is meant to shape you, not the mountain." Silas explained that the horse required her to practice disciplined will. Each time Maria faced a choice, the easy path versus the necessary path, she had to choose the necessary one, with the horse's cold presence as her witness. Only then would the true purpose of the horse reveal itself. The purpose, Silas hinted, was not to find the starlight gem, but to be capable of protecting it. The final ascent to Whisper Peak was a brutal slog through blinding snow and thin, biting air. Maria had long since stopped relying on the horse for instantaneous miracles. She used it only when faced with critical decisions. One day, she was trapped in a narrow, ice-slicked crevice. A sudden rockslide had blocked the entrance behind her. The only way out was up, a vertical climb on smooth, treacherous ice. Panic seized her throat. She reached for the ebony horse. She held it tight, her knuckles white. The familiar cold settled the frantic rhythm of her heart. The horse did not magically warm the ice or move the boulders. Instead, it presented her with a terrible, crystalline clarity. If you fail, you fall. This is the truth of the moment. Now, what is the next step? She found a minuscule irregularity in the ice, a place where her boot toe might catch. Then another. And another. She climbed with a methodical, terrifying precision. At the very summit, Maria found the source of the brackish water. It was not a gem, but a fountain of liquid starlight bubbling up from a deep, obsidian pool. Floating in the middle of the pool, turning the pure water bitter with its shadow, was a creature of shimmering, corrosive vapor, a shade of apathy. The shade had been drawn to the region by the collective, self-satisfied mediocrity of Oak Haven and had begun to poison the source of life. Maria realized the task was impossible. She couldn't fight vapor. She couldn't touch it. She had nothing but her pack, her will, and the small wooden horse. The shade sensed her presence and drifted toward her, its essence leaching warmth and hope from the air. A voice slithered into Maria's mind, low and persuasive. "Give up. Go back. Your village will be fine." It is easier to simply accept the bitter water. Maria fought the paralyzing urge to surrender. She brought the ebony horse out, holding it directly toward the shade. "Reflect," she commanded silently, remembering Silas's words. "Reflect the truth of my intention." The shade recoiled slightly. She closed her eyes and, focusing with the power the horse had taught her to harness, she released her deepest, hardest-won truth. Her intent was no longer for herself, for adventure, or even for an easy victory. It was the desire to pay the price necessary to protect the people below. The ebony horse, finally, acted. It did not create fire or lightning. It simply began to glow, not with an outward light, but with an intense, internal darkness that seemed to condense the air around it. This was the magic of the Tree of Ages, the distillation of pure, unyielding will. As the horse glowed, the shade of apathy, which was nothing but diffused, corrosive emotion, was drawn to the concentrated willpower. The obsidian pool immediately cleared. The water turned vibrant, pulsing with the light of fresh stars. The spring was saved. Maria returned to Oak Haven a month later, not riding a magical steed, but walking. Her clothes were worn, her face was weathered, but her eyes held a clarity that stunned the villagers. The spring was already flowing pure and sweet again. She never told anyone what she had done. The people of Oak Haven, now drinking the clear water. The ebony horse was still just a carving. But when Maria held it now, she didn't feel the sudden jolt of magical focus. She felt the warm, satisfying knowledge that the focus was now her own. The horse had not given her power, it had given her the discipline required to forge her own power. She finally understood the deepest lesson. The magnificent, extraordinary steed she had always longed for was never meant to be external. It was the powerful, tireless engine of resilience and intentional effort that she had built, piece by piece, within herself. The ebony horse was just the key, and the true marvel was Maria herself, finally untamed. If you enjoyed the story, subscribe the channel and like the video. Thank you.